All right, welcome to New Media Patriot Radio, the show about you, the concerned citizen, the silent majority, the politically incorrect, the social media patriot fighting every single day to restore American values and exceptionalism. You can follow us on Twitter at ThePatriot143 or on our show Twitter at NMP Radio. Also, if you want to get your voice heard and you want to be a guest on the show, simply email us at newmediapatriot@gmail.com. Also, we are now being syndicated on rebootingliberty.com and also the new home of Conservative Talk Radio on ICRN. You can visit their website now. They have a slew of other conservative talk shows on there. You can visit them today at conservativeradionetwork.com. I am your host, Chris, and before we get to our co-host, my co-host for the night, can we just please stop calling Ted Cruz an outsider? Please, I promise you, if he gets the nomination, I will vote for him. But let's stop calling him an outsider, because he is not. We're going to be discussing that today on episode 32 of New Media Patriot Radio here, the silent majority here. And, a lot of people that follow me on Twitter are kind of confused. The other day, I was looking through my notifications because I get a lot of notifications, and people were asking me, wait a minute, you have a radio show? So I don't know if I've been promoting it properly. I don't know if I've been doing it correctly. And here I am thinking that I'm doing it. I'm a pretty good promoter. People that follow me don't realize that it's me, the Patriot 143, or Chris, who has the show on New Media Patriot Radio. It's me. Yes. In case you didn't know, it is me. So please listen to my show. It's awesome. And those of you that constantly come back to listen, I want to thank you for showing support, for the cause here. Cause basically I do this because I love to do it. And, I put a lot of effort and time into it. And, just knowing the fact that, that people actually listen, it just motivates me, to do the next show. Again, the number here, if you guys want to participate, yes, we are live. The number here is 347-338-1775. Again, welcome to the silent majority here on New Media Patriot Radio. So there's a lot going on in this political world right now. It is crazy. I mean, with this quote unquote new media that we have here, at our disposal, it's 24/7, content, and sometimes it can be overwhelming. Trust me. Sometimes I'll start reading and you get into this rabbit hole and you're just like, oh my God. And one article leads to the next and then the next. And I'm going to be discussing this with my guest today, about, once in a while, these radio hosts, these professional radio hosts, once in a while should attempt to put their little tinfoil caps on for certain things, because again, all the information is out there, and you'll see today as to why I'm saying you should put your tinfoil cap on every now and then. Don't be embarrassed about it, because sometimes you need to unroot, to discover the truth. But before we go any further, let's welcome in my co-host for the day. His name is Gary Wellings. He has a show on Saturdays. It's called The Daily Drift. How are you, Gary?
Good, Chris. Thanks for having me on, man.
Hey, no problem. Tell the audience, about your show that you have on Saturday.
Well, we do a Saturday talk show from 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Wham Talk 1600. That's a website or a radio station out of Southeast Michigan. And I base it on my Daily Drift website, which is a daily blog. It's kind of a news aggregate. I've got links to all kinds of stuff that you don't get from the mainstream media, and I call it the news you need to know. So I see a lot of those links. You put them up there for me as well, and so do I, and we get them out on Twitter and let people see what's out there. But it's the information that we're not getting. And it's funny you should say, put the tinfoil hat on, because I'll tell you what, I like to say it's Conspiracy Saturday, probably two weeks a month on my show, and I put on that tinfoil hat because I've always been a bit of a paranoid person. I think of that Mel Gibson movie, but you know what? It's this week of all the crazy things you and I were talking earlier off the air that what is going on? There is just so many crazy things. It's like a novel. This is literally something right out of a movie.
Well, this is the thing, and I mentioned it in my opening, how I listen to. I'm a big talk show radio junkie, and I listen to all different kind of talk shows, political talk shows. I listen to the Mark Levines. I listen to Glenn Beck. Believe it or not, I have to listen to him once in a while to see what he's talking about, and What I don't understand is how do we get from having a radio show to cover what's going on in the political world to having a radio show as a platform to promote one particular candidate. And it's kind of frustrating to me where whenever you tune into Glenn Beck, it's Donald Trump sucks, he's Hitler, he's the KKK, he's a Nazi. When you tune into, Mark Levine, Ted Cruz can do no wrong. He is an amazing constitutionalist, and we're going to get into why, that's hogwash. He's this great person with values and all this stuff, and you got to listen to it. And then you listen to, the Wilcox majority, and he's a libertarian, through and through. And he's like playing both sides of the aisle because he doesn't want to lose his sponsorship or his listeners or whatever the case may be. And he says he gets angry emails from both sides. And I guess what I'm trying to get at is the fact that you and I have a show where we're not going to get our feet held over the fire if we say something that, our sponsors or our corporate, owners are going to, fire us over. So this is why this new media is even of more of importance of what you and I are doing. And I just hope people realize that.
Yeah, I mean, what we do is bring people the truth. I mean, and I'm not afraid to say I've made a mistake. I'll tell you, Chris, earlier in 2015, when the election had just started, I had Ted Cruz's Michigan campaign manager, Wendy Day, on my show for a full hour. Mm-hmm. And that was a Saturday, a full hour with terrestrial radio and podcasts as well. And I gave her another half hour the following week. That's how into Cruz I was. I really believed that he was a constitutional conservative, the best guy out there. I understood even at that time that, he may not have the appeal to get through a general election, but right. I really believed. I gave him every benefit of the doubt. Mm-hmm. And I kept that, and even to this point, if it came down to a Hillary or a Ted Cruz, I'd probably pull the lever for the Ted Cruz.
Have to, yeah.
But I don't understand what has happened. I started seeing the cracks. I had a listener email me last summer saying, hey, aren't you worried about Ted Cruz's Goldman Sachs connection through his wife? And I said, what do you mean? And so I started doing my research, and I saw that his wife worked for Goldman Sachs, and I kind of dismissed it. I'm like, all right, well, that's okay. She's going to leave the job, whatever. And then out comes the Council on Foreign Relations. She sat on that with George Soros. She's not now, obviously. She said she's got off it. Who really knows? But things are never as they appear to be. Right. It's absolutely it's right out of a fictional novel. It's crazy.
You bring up an interesting point about and I said it in my opening how we got to stop calling Ted Cruz an outsider, because he really isn't an outsider. He's been in the game. Him and his wife have been in the game. They actually met while working for President George H.W. Bush. They basically met while working for them, and they've been insiders. And again, she's been working for this North American Trade Union, which basically is open borders to the north, open borders to the south, becoming like the EU. And as you can see, it's not working over there. So she was part of it.
It's not working for us.
It's not working for us, but I mean, it's not working for them. It's chaotic over there right now. You have some, some countries that want to leave the EU for that same reason. But then here comes, I think a couple of days ago, you had Neil Bush, the son of George H.W. Bush, who was basically who defrauded U.S. taxpayers out of, I think it was like $1.5 billion in savings in the savings and loan scam.
Yep.
And basically, he was at the same time he was peddling influence for the Chinese government, and the Chinese government was paying him, by sending him Chinese prostitutes. He came out. He came out. Yeah, he came out this week and endorsed Ted Cruz. What do you think about that?
Yeah, well, it's exactly right. How can you be the outsider when Jeb Bush was the insider, the consummate insider? And that's why the American people gave him no play at all throughout this election process, and he had to bow out, knowing full well that he just couldn't make it through a general election, not even the primary. And here's the youngest brother of George W. Bush, who, again, as some of our younger listeners probably may not remember the savings and loan scandal.
Oh, no.
But you know what? That goes back mid-'80s, and it was huge. I mean, you used to see banks, credit unions, and savings and loans. Savings and loans are gone because of that savings and loan scandal. They literally destroyed an entire section of the banking industry. And why he never went to jail or somebody didn't go to jail is beyond me. I to this day, I don't understand it. I was young back then too,
Yeah. And the Bush Cruz connection is pretty much, it's pretty clear. I mean, and this is why, going in, I'm, when every time I hear Breitbart or anybody, on radio say, well, the two outsiders are really surging. And I'm saying there's only one outsider now, and that's Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And,
the hypocrisy from the debate the other night, and this is why I sometimes wish, maybe Donald was just trying to play along to get along last night to show that he can be a calm, cool presidential person. But when Ted Cruz accused him of being an insider because he paid for politicians, I thought to myself, come on, Donald, you're one of the politicians taking money from people. How much of an outsider are you when you're the one getting the money? It's different between paying money for favors and collecting that bribe as to give those favors. It's the hypocrisy from Bush or from Ted Cruz is just phenomenal, and this really breaks my heart, Chris. I got to tell you, we talked earlier. I feel like a schoolgirl who's had his heart broken or had her heart broken because I believed in Ted Cruz. I really did. This is just an absolute travesty.
I was telling you, off the air how. Here you have Donald Trump, a businessman, and I know business people, big business people here in New York City. By the way, you're listening to the Silent Majority here on New Media Patriot Radio. The number to call, it is 347-338-1775. We spoke about this off the air, how, here you have a businessman who I'm going to give, and I think most people that are supporting him are going to give him the benefit of their doubt, because all the politicians that we've had in there throughout the years have done absolutely nothing. So when people say, well, he gave money to Hillary Clinton, he gave money to John Kerry, he gave money to all these Democrats, and then I say to myself, and another thing was Ted Cruz tried to pin the Gang of Eight on Donald Trump while having Marco Rubio on the same stage, and didn't bring up the fact that you had the co-writer, the co-sponsor of the Gang of Eight. Anyway, let's talk about that later. But the fact of the matter is, I know businessmen here in New York City personally who say I have to give to both sides to make sure that my employees stay employed. Plain and simple. Yeah. And that's a leader that puts his workers first. And making sure that he's going to make money, but ultimately he's going to have these people employed. Let me just make this one point also. For all this rhetoric about him paying Democrats money, according to the International Business Times review of data from Political Moneyline, Trump has given nearly $1.5 million to the GOP candidates and political groups on the federal level since 1979. The billionaire has donated roughly $405,000 to Democratic politicians and committee during the same time span. So he's donated $1.5 million